Chapter 1302. In the vast starry sky, the phoenix roared in the sky. Black and red phoenix flames circled around it like a shooting star. A few days later, the phoenix appeared in the sky above the underworld. The phoenix body and the main body walked out. They looked at each other and the phoenix body disappeared into the main body. With the return of the phoenix body, Ning Chen's aura became stronger. He took a step forward and walked into the divine forbidden ground. At this moment, the kings of the 12 palaces of the underworld felt something. They opened their eyes and looked at the knowing destiny state cultivators in the sky with a strange look. The knowing destiny state was finally back. In the Hall of Impermanence, the Dawn Moon House Master stood up. Her calm eyes flashed. This aura was the heavenly book. It was the main body that had returned. Where was the demon body? Why didn't it return? Did something happen? Not far away, in another Hall of Impermanence, a man looked sideways. There was a faint joy on her beautiful face. He was back. In the Hall of King Biancheng, King Wu Guan, Qing Ning, and Ir walked out. The latter's figure flashed quickly and rushed forward excitedly. Master! In front of the Hall of King Yama, rushed over. Ning Chen stopped and caught the excited girl. He smiled and said, "You're a big girl now, but you're still like a child." Looked up and giggled. She said happily, "Master, I missed you." Ning Chen rubbed the girl's hair and smiled. Let's go. Let's go into the hall first. I have something to discuss with you." Hearing that there was something serious, stopped fooling around and followed behind obediently. They walked towards the Hall of King Yama together. In the other 10 halls, the kings of the underworld also moved. They turned into flowing lights and flew towards the Hall of King Yama. Half an hour later, in the Hall of King Yama, the kings of the underworld sat down in front of the long table. They looked at the knowing destiny state in front of them. "I know what you want to ask. I'll tell you one by one," Ning Chen replied. He then told everyone in detail what had happened in the past few days. Below the seats, the kings of the human race listened quietly. As the matter progressed, waves rose in their hearts and they couldn't calm down for a long time. In just a few months, from the forbidden land of gods and demons to the primordial demon realm, too many unbelievable things had happened. It was beyond everyone's knowledge. Gods and demons. The Dawn Moon House Master murmured softly. They had finally appeared in this era. Why don't I see senior sister die? Ning Chen swept his gaze across the crowd and asked. Female Exalted has not arrived for a long time. She might have encountered some trouble. Lady Dai went to receive her. She should be back soon, Prince Qi, Lin Yuzhen, replied. Hearing this, Ning Chen nodded lightly and did not ask any more questions. He looked at the human kings present and said seriously, the 10-year agreement between the human race and the primordial demon realm will soon be over. Once the time is up, the underworld will likely become the primordial demon realm's main target. Right now, the underworld is not strong enough to fight against the 100 tribes of the demon realm. Does anyone have any good suggestions? How about breaking up the whole into parts? Luo Xingchen suggested before the long table. Mu Qianshang decisively rejected it and said seriously, the underworld's strength is inferior to the devil realm's 100 clans. If we are all separated, it will be easier for the 100 clans to defeat us one by one. Not bad. Beside him, Luo Fei also rejected the suggestion and said, if we are separated, orders will not be transmitted in time and actions will be difficult to be unified. The underworld's strength will also become scattered and will no longer be a threat to the devil realm's 100 clans. Luo Xingchen shut his mouth helplessly and stopped showing off his tactical intelligence. Luo Xingchen's suggestion is not absolutely unacceptable. Ning Chen said seriously, up until now, the underworld has not been able to fight against the devil realm's 100 clans. This is a fact. Breaking up the whole into parts can indeed preserve the greatest amount of strength. However, Qian Shang and Luo Fei are right. The purpose of the underworld's existence is to fight against the devil realm. If we are separated and fight on our own, the threat to the primordial demon realm will be greatly reduced. This is also a fact. It is not easy to have the best of both worlds. In front of the long table, the Dawn Moonhouse Master said calmly, "In the current situation, it is very difficult for the underworld to fight against the 100 clans and protect itself at the same time. In the past, the underworld was not the Devil Realm's main target. However, after the Knowing Destiny states havoc in the Devil Realm, once the two realms go to war, the Emperors of the Devil Realm will definitely target the underworld with all their strength. I suggest that we avoid them for the time being." Hearing this, the kings of the underworld fell into deep thought. The current situation was indeed somewhat troublesome. It was difficult to choose between splitting up and joining together. "Everyone, there is no need to be overly worried. Compared to before, the underworld is now being targeted by the primordial demon realm. This means that the underworld's strength is enough to threaten the 100 clans. This is a good thing for us." Among the kings, Qin Ning said softly, "At least, the strength of the human race and the Devil Realm is no longer out of reach." In front of his seat, Ning Chen nodded slightly and a smile appeared on his face. Sister Qin Ning's vision was indeed very far-sighted. The kings were awakened from their thoughts and looked at each other, surprise flashing in their eyes. Qin Ning was right. Unknowingly, the underworld had become a great threat to the primordial demon realm. It was time for them to change some of their previous thoughts. I invited everyone here to inform everyone of these matters. There is still some time before the 10-year period ends. Everyone can go back and slowly think of countermeasures. Ning Chen looked at the kings of the underworld and calmly said. In front of the long table, the kings nodded and stood up one after another, leaving with a heavy heart. "Zi, wait a moment." Ning Chen called out to the two of them and softly said. Xia Zi and Luofei heard this and stopped. They looked at Knowing Destiny in front of them, doubt flashing in their eyes. "Luofei, I want the cultivation method of the Scroll of Moon. What are the conditions?" "Feel free to state them," Ning Chen said seriously. Luofei glanced at the man beside her and a smile appeared on her beautiful face. "I thought you would have made this request long ago." To the side, Xia Zi quietly stood there, not saying a word. Luofei stretched out her right hand and a golden page appeared. The golden page overflowed with light and the cultivation method of the Scroll of Moon was densely engraved on it. "Take it. As for the exchange conditions, I will think about it later and ask you." Luofei chuckled. "Thank you." Ning Chen didn't refuse. He took the Scroll of Moon and looked at the two of them. "Zi, Knowing Destiny is grateful to have the two of you accompany me all these years." "Long-winded," Xia Zi lightly said and turned to walk out of the hall. Luofei smiled and didn't say anything else. She also left. After the kings left, Ning Chen stood quietly in King Yama's palace. He looked at the kings of the 10 palaces and sighed softly in his heart. Master seems a little different. On the way back, he looked back at King Yama's palace and softly said, "It is different." Qin Ning nodded. In the past, Ning Chen wouldn't deliberately leave problems for everyone. He would do almost everything himself and think of a way out. But today, Ning Chen threw out the problem but didn't give a solution. This was something that had never happened before. Master shouldn't have something to do, right? Or was a little worried. "Don't worry, it won't happen." Qin Ning shook her head. "Your master should be deliberately cultivating everyone's ability to take charge of the overall situation. These years, we have relied on him too much. It can be said that without your master, the underworld would be like a sheet of loose sand. There is always a limit to one's strength. Your master may have realized this and is working hard to change the situation." Or had heard this before and scratched her head. She couldn't think of a solution. Was she too stupid? Qin Ning looked at the expression of the maid beside her and smiled. She said, "Don't worry, take your time. After all, not everyone is born with a clear mind and good at scheming like your master. After all, there is only one Marquis Jiming in the world. We will do as much as we can." Lena gave a simple and honest smile, and the gloominess from before immediately disappeared. In King Yama's palace, Ning Chen retracted his gaze and looked at the Scroll of Moon in his hand. The Scroll of Moon was more suitable for women to cultivate. This was also the reason why he hadn't asked Luofei for so many years. But now, he had basically mastered all 10 scrolls of the Tomes of Arcane. It was time to try to cultivate the last scroll. The next moment, in King Yama's palace, Ning Chen sat cross-legged. A strange light rose, and a strong aura spread out. Heaven and earth, the sun and the moon were bright, and the divine travel was not chaotic. Since ancient times, no one had cultivated all 10 scrolls of the tomes of Arcane. Today, for the first time, the knowing Destiny Marquis tried to integrate the martial arts of the 10 scrolls. The 10 scrolls of the tomes of Arcane had been destroyed. However, the knowing Destiny Marquis had mastered 2 scrolls twice and had already remembered the laws of light and chaos. The 9 underworlds battle law was developed, and the light and chaos reappeared. In King Yama's palace, heaven and earth rumbled, and all the laws collapsed one after another. After the light and chaos, the phoenix fire rose again. The phoenix quickly developed the scroll of travel. Supported by the secret technique of time and space, the body of the knowing Destiny Marquis gradually faded. It was an unprecedented scene. The 10 scrolls of the tomes of Arcane appeared one after another. In the void, pages of golden paper appeared. The laws evolved, and the collapsed scrolls of the tomes of Arcane reappeared. In each palace of the underworld, the kings of the human race felt the shocking aura of King Yama's palace, and their faces flashed with seriousness. "I'm looking forward to it." In Wuchang Palace, the Dawn Moon House Master looked at King Yama's palace in the distance, and her eyes became brighter and brighter. No one had cultivated all 10 scrolls of the tomes of Arcane. The knowing Destiny Marquis was walking on a path that no one had ever walked before. If he succeeded, the dragon would roar in the sky, and he would be the king of the human world. At this moment, on the peak of the Ziwei godly realm, the master of the godly realm trembled slightly, and a gratified expression appeared on his old face. The prophecy was finally coming true. "Peacock." The master of the godly realm looked back at the woman in the wheelchair behind him and said softly, "The new master of the godly realm is about to appear. You should go to him." Peacock was silent. After a long while, she bowed respectfully and turned the wheelchair to leave. "Master." As soon as Peacock left, a white light flashed on the peak. Child Xiaobai walked out and looked at the elder in front of him. He said, "A new time and space crack has appeared in the north of the Ziwei galaxy. This time, it's 1,000,000 miles long." Hearing this, the master of the godly realm sighed and said, "I see." Chapter 1303. In the underworld, King Yenluo's palace. A strange light rose and countless colors floated above the palace. The sound of the great Tao reverberated. In the 12 palaces of the underworld, the human kings looked at the King Yenluo's palace in shock. Tens of thousands of miles away, in the Yin Sea Ghost Prison, the elders of the Ghost Clan felt the terrifying fluctuations from the King Yenluo's palace. They rose into the sky and flew out of the abyss. In the sky above the Ghost Prison, the elders of the Ghost Clan looked forward and narrowed their eyes. Such a terrifying aura. Was a human king about to prove his Tao? While the elders of the Ghost Clan were in a daze, the white bone throne in front of them rose into the sky. The Ghost King sat on the throne and looked forward with a strange look in his eyes. This aura belonged to the 13th prince. Perhaps the Ghost Clan had made the right choice. "King, is the 13th prince about to break through to the Emperor realm?" the great elder of the Ghost Clan asked. "It doesn't look like it." The Ghost King shook his head and said, "The 13th prince is still some distance away from the Emperor realm. Although this power is terrifying, it doesn't belong to an Emperor realm sovereign. If I'm not wrong, the 13th prince should have a great breakthrough in his martial Tao. Maybe it's the extreme realm, or maybe it's the birth of a heaven-defying battle technique. No matter what it is, there is no doubt that the 13th prince's strength will have a qualitative leap. The 13th prince had the strength of a peak king before. Now that he has a breakthrough in his martial Tao, wouldn't he be able to compete with an Emperor realm sovereign?" The great elder of the Ghost Clan was shocked. The Ghost King was silent. After a long time, he said softly, "Maybe." All the kings looked at the King Yenluo's palace. The 10 heavenly books reappeared in the world. The heavenly books that had collapsed and disappeared in the mortal world reappeared. The 10 heavenly books gathered and the entire underworld shook violently. Days passed and the 10 heavenly books gradually solidified. The 10 heavenly books formed a book and the great Tao was engraved on it. In the King Yenluo's palace, Ning Chen's aura became stronger and stronger. Above the 9 heavens, the clouds changed and the heavenly tribulation appeared. After a while, it quickly disappeared. On the golden book of the heavenly books, the heavenly book was opened. The chaos book disturbed the chi of heaven and earth. Within the rotating wheel royal hall, Luofei's heart was in turmoil. The knowledge Marquis was truly too terrifying. In the neighboring King Pingdeng Palace, Xia Zi stared at King Yenluo's palace in the distance. Light flashed in his cold eyes. Knowing destiny walked in front of them again. This guy has gone too far. In King Qingguang's palace, Luo Xingqian's face was filled with envy and jealousy. There were 10 scrolls of the heavenly tomes, and obtaining even one of them was enough to become an overlord. However, this fellow had obtained 10 scrolls by himself. This was too much. But, are you jealous? Yama's third hall, Song Emperor Palace. Mu Qianshang sent a voice transmission and mocked. Those 10 heavenly tomes, even if I give them to you, you won't be able to cultivate them. You should just relax and shoot your arrows. Scram. Luo Xingqian could not help but curse. He chose to ignore this bad friend of his. Just as knowing destiny was refining the 10 tomes of the arcane, a black streamer flew across the sky above the netherworld. In the streamer, the black blade chi turned into a butterfly and flew directly toward the netherworld. In the next moment, the black butterfly collided with the divine restriction. Rumbling sounds reverberated throughout the entire great star. In the 12 palaces of the underworld, the kings of the underworld sensed this and they all looked up at the sky, their faces filled with shock. What happened? In front of King Biancheng's palace, Qing Ning walked out and leaped into the sky. She opened the divine restriction above the underworld. When the divine restriction was opened, the black butterfly flew past and the blade chi broke through the sky. In the various palaces of the underworld, the kings of the human race walked out one after another. They looked at the blade chi in front of them that did not dissipate. This was the aura of Hua Zhongdia. Not good. In the void, Qing Ning's figure landed and her eyes flashed. Hua Zhongdia went to pick up female supreme. There was a high chance that she was in danger. The problem was that Ning Chen was still in seclusion. They could only deal with this by themselves. Hua Zhongdia and female supreme might be in danger. We have to send someone to help them. Thinking of this, Qing Ning regained her senses and said to the kings in front of her. In front of King Pingdeng's palace, Xia Zi looked at the King Yenluo's palace that was filled with the aura of the kings. After a while, he calmed himself down and said calmly, I'll go. Qing Ning nodded. Zi's strength was one of the best among the kings. Ning Chen was in seclusion and Zi was indeed the best choice. Lady Dai is asking for help. She must have encountered a lot of trouble. It might be too much for Zi to go alone. Luo Xingqian and I will go together. In front of King Song's palace, Mu Qianshang said. In front of King Qingguang's palace, Luo Xingqian, who had not expressed his opinion, was dragged into the labor. He was very unhappy. Be careful. Qing Ning nodded. Looking at the 3 kings who had gone through life and death together, she reminded them seriously. Understood. Mu Qianshang replied. He looked at the 2 of them and said, Time is tight. Let's go now. Xia Zi and Luo Xingqian nodded. They leaped up and flew towards the sky. The 3 kings left together. In front of the King Yenluo's 10 palaces, Qing Ning looked at the backs of the 3 kings. After a few breaths, she looked at the King Yenluo's palace and transmitted her voice. Luo Fei, follow behind them. If there is any danger, come back and ask for help. In front of the King Yenluo's palace, Luo Fei's expression turned serious. She nodded slightly and followed with light steps. In the starry sky, 3 streams of light flew past and rushed towards the spirit void star region. At the border of the 2 regions, huge spatial cracks crisscrossed. It was abnormally terrifying. The extremely unstable space was constantly collapsing. It was an unprecedented scene. It was as if the entire starry sky was about to collapse. In the distance, 3 streams of light rushed over and stopped in front of the collapsed space. What happened here? How did it become like this? Luo Xingchen looked at the terrifying scene in front of him and said with a shocked expression, "Be careful. Don't get sucked into the spatial turbulence." Mu Qianshang reminded. The two nodded. Their figures flew out and continued on their way. In the collapsed starry sky, the three figures flew past. Their divine senses were fully opened, alert for any possible danger. Around the three of them, the space was constantly collapsing. The turbulence roared and forcefully swallowed the surrounding spatial fragments. Suddenly, in the depths of the spatial turbulence, a terrifying roar sounded. It was deafening and resounded through the starry sky. The three of them felt it. Their expressions were shocked. Their vital essence surged out and resisted the powerful pressure that permeated from the depths of the void. Emperor Dao Sovereign. A terrifying impact came. Mu Qianshang's expression changed slightly. Was there still an emperor in the mortal realm? Boom! Before the three of them could recover, the surrounding space collapsed and quickly swallowed the three of them. In an instant, the three of their auras disappeared, swallowed by the spatial turbulence. In the distance, Luo Fei looked at this shocking scene. She resisted the urge to rush up and turned back, rushing back to the underworld. Underworld, King Yanluo's palace. A strange light rose. After many days of seclusion, Ning Chen's aura grew stronger. In the sky, the golden book of the heavenly book floated up and down. On each page, the world's top cultivation technique was engraved. When all 10 volumes were gathered together, it could seize the fortune of heaven and earth. As the days passed, the light above King Yanluo's palace gradually dissipated and returned to heaven and earth. Is he finally coming out of seclusion? In King Yanluo's palace, Qin Ning felt it. Her eyes flashed and she walked out of the palace. In King Yanluo's palace, the strange light suddenly flourished. In an instant, it quickly converged and calmed down. In the palace, Ning Chen slowly opened his eyes. A powerful pressure swept out. His white hair rose and fell. In the sky, the golden book of the heavenly book fell and disappeared. Ning Chen got up and walked out of the palace. In front of the palace, Qin Ning stood quietly. She looked at the young man in front of her and smiled. "You've come out of seclusion?" Ning Chen nodded. He looked at the 4 empty palaces and said, "Where are Zi and the others?" Not long ago, Hua Zhongdia asked for help from Underworld. She might have encountered some trouble. Zi and the others went to rescue her. Just in case, I had Luofei follow behind them. If there is any danger, she can come back in time to ask for help. Qin Ning said. Ning Chen frowned. Senior apprentice Sister Dai's strength was rarely matched below the imperial path. What happened that made senior apprentice Sister Dai have to ask for help from Underworld? As the two were talking, a beam of light streaked across the sky above Underworld. Luofei had returned. She stepped into the divine forbidden zone and quickly rushed towards the 10 palaces. In front of King Yanluo's palace, Ning Chen and Qin Ning both felt something. They looked towards the horizon and an ominous premonition rose in their hearts. Only Luofei had returned. This was bad. In the horizon, Luofei's figure descended. When she saw knowing destiny in front of King Yanluo's palace, she immediately rushed forward. Zi and the others have had an accident. In front of the palace, Luofei stopped and anxiously said, "Don't worry. Speak slowly." Ning Chen said. Luofei suppressed the anxiety in her heart and told him in detail what had happened at the border between the two realms. Ning Chen patiently listened to her, his expression becoming more and more dignified. An imperial path aura and an inexplicable roar? Zi and the others should be fine. It's difficult to conceal the aura of an imperial path sovereign. The Lord of the Divine Realm once said that including young Master Shao Bai who had just reached Tao Enlightenment, there are only 3 sovereigns in sky beyond heaven. This means that the owner of that roar isn't a true imperial path sovereign. If it's the latter, then the owner of that roar is likely to be like the sovereigns of the primal demon realm, unable to freely enter and leave sky beyond heaven. Ning Chen calmly analyzed. You mean, a new great world is about to descend into the mortal world? Qin Ning frowned. It's possible, but the possibility is very small. Ning Chen replied. Just like the primal demon realm, in order to descend into the mortal world, it took an unknown number of years. It can be seen that connecting two different great worlds is extremely difficult. If it's not a new great world, how do you explain this unfamiliar imperial path sovereign aura? Luofei was worried. Perhaps it's a self-proclaimed ancient path sovereign, or perhaps it's an ancient god or demon. There are too many strange things happening in this era. I can't judge it now, so I have to make a trip personally. Ningchen said. You must be careful. This matter is full of mysteries. There may be big trouble. Qin Ning reminded. I understand. Ningchen nodded and looked at the second Yama Palace in the distance. He said, Your Highness Prince Qi, please lend me your sword. Be careful. Prince Qi's voice came from King Chujiang's palace. As soon as he finished speaking, a blazing meteor rushed over, and a phoenix's cry resounded throughout the underworld. Thank you. Ningchen raised his hand and held the sword. Without further delay, he took a step and left. Chapter 1304. At the border of the Spirit Void Galaxy and Z-Way Galaxy, millions of miles of space cracks crisscrossed. It was a horrifying scene. A few days later, in front of the space crack, a white flowing light sped over. It was a white-haired man in plain clothes, his expression as calm as still water. After staring for a long time, Ningchen released his divine sense and walked forward step by step. Around him, the starry sky kept collapsing as the space turbulence roared. Wherever the turbulence passed, it devoured the heaven and earth. After walking for a long time, suddenly, an earth-shattering roar sounded. A terrifying pressure spread out, collapsing space and swallowing the knowing destiny physique. In the space turbulence, Ning Chen's figure gradually disappeared. At the corner of his mouth, an undetectable coldness flashed past silently. In the depths of the space crack, in an unknown space, the roar sounded from time to time. In the dark world, Xia Zi, Mu Qianshang, and Luo Xingchen walked forward cautiously. The true qi in their bodies surged, ready to strike at any time. This place is too strange. After walking for a long time, Luo Xingchen said impatiently, Don't be careless. Mu Qianshang reminded from the side, Hua Zhongdie and Female Supreme's aura disappeared here. Perhaps something happened to them here. There were no such space cracks between the Spirit Void Galaxy and Z-Way Galaxy before. Hua Zhongdie and Female Supreme should have been sucked into the space crack by that roar like us. Xia Zi said calmly. Mu Qianshang nodded and said, Anyway, just be careful. The owner of that roar has a terrifying aura. At least, he has the strength of an Imperial Supreme. If we encounter him, a fierce battle is unavoidable. While the three of them were conversing, a terrifying roar of rage resounded from afar. A peerlessly powerful aura suffused the air, its might capable of destroying the heavens and the earth, constantly destroying everything in its path. Seeing this, Xia Zi stepped in front of the two and the demonic sword Doomsday Frenzy appeared. Demonic flames rose and slashed at the Emperor's aura. With a loud rumble, the two auras collided. Xia Zi took half a step back and blocked the terrifying aura. What a terrifying aura! Mu Qianshang's expression became more solemn. Even though they were so far away, just the pressure alone forced them to resist with all their might. It showed how powerful the owner of the roar was. Xia Zi waved his hand and put away the demonic sword. Demonic qi surged around his body, suppressing the surging blood qi in his body. He said with a serious tone, Let's continue our journey. We have to find Hua Zhongdie and Female Supreme as soon as possible. They might be in danger. Mu Qianshang and Luo Xingchen nodded and continued walking forward. In the depths of the space-time crack, a terrifying giant god floated up and down. His lower body had merged with the world, leaving only his upper body. His face was hideous, as if he was in extreme pain. After countless years of torment, he failed to corroborate his Tao. Half of his body transformed into a god fiend, achieving the Tao in another way. Half of his body merged with heaven and earth, becoming a straw dog of the great Tao. Hua Zhongdie and Nu Chang's clothes were dyed red. They had fought for many days and both of them had suffered heavy injuries. Roar! The half-god fiend roared furiously. The laws of heaven and earth in the surroundings kept pressing down on the two of them. He transformed into the heavenly Tao to punish the human cultivators. Female Supreme, hang in there. I have already asked for help from the underworld. Reinforcements will be here soon. Butterfly in the flowers swung her sword to cut through the laws of heaven and earth. Not far away, the Chongling noble who had been trapped for a long time was heavily wounded. Her beautiful eyes had lost their light and she was unusually tired. Butterfly in the flower, I may not be able to walk out of here. Leave quickly. There is no need to die here for nothing. Nu Chang struggled to support her heavily wounded body. She gathered energy with her slender hand and pushed away the laws of heaven and earth around her. Her voice was hoarse. Do not give up. They will be here soon. Hang in there. Butterfly in the flower's figure flashed and blocked in front. Her two blades turned and slashed at the god in front of her. Boom! The blade light slashed down. The half-god roared angrily. Violent heavenly might spread and scattered the blade light. In front of them, the heavenly might swept past. Hua Zhongye and Nu Chang's lips turned red as they retreated several steps. The undefeatable half-god turned into a dog of heaven and earth, punishing on behalf of the heavens. His every move shook the heavenly might. Even the top experts of the world could not match him. Hundreds of feet away, Butterfly in the flower's hands were bleeding. After fighting for many days, the god of blades whose name shook the world was gradually reaching her limit. A god that had become half of the Tao did not know exhaustion and could not be injured by blades. It was like the true heavenly Tao, so powerful it made people despair. Run! The heavenly Tao laws arrived again. The woman shouted. Her slender hands gathered the last of her strength. Her extreme chi surged, resisting the terrifying heavenly might descending from the sky. Blood splashed out and dyed the void red. Flowers of blood burst out from Nu Chang's body. Nu Chang! Butterfly in the flower's expression changed. She was anxious and the demonic nature in her body rose again. The surging demonic chi scattered her hair. Butterfly in the flower's eyes turned scarlet. Flower Burial turned around and slashed down from the sky. The shocking blade power slashed on the body of the god. The half-god roared in pain and his face became more and more ferocious. The god was furious. The heavenly Tao became more and more chaotic. Endless pressure fell from the sky and tried to devour the two. Shwa! At the critical moment, a green arrow flew over from the distance. The arrow power was shocking and crashed into the half-god. The rumbling sound echoed in the void. At the end of the darkness, three figures rushed over. The three kings of hell finally arrived at the most dangerous moment. What kind of monster is this? The three appeared in the darkness. Luo Xingchen looked at the half-god in the sky and said with a strange expression, I'm not sure, but it can control the heavenly Tao. We must be careful. Butterfly in the flower reminded, it can control the heavenly Tao? Luo Xingchen frowned. It was indeed a monster. Miss Dai and Nu Chang, retreat to the side to heal. Leave this to us. Xia Zi said calmly as he stepped forward and looked ahead. Luo Xingchen, you protect Miss Dai and Nu Chang. Mu Qianshang also stepped forward with his sword. He looked at the monster in front of him with a solemn expression. Be careful. This monster is hard to injure and will recover quickly. It is very difficult to deal with. Butterfly in the flower reminded again. She helped Nu Chang and temporarily retreated from the battle. Who will go first? Mu Qianshang's eyes narrowed as the two retreated. I will go first. You observe its weakness. Xia Zi replied. Demonic chi surged around him and the frenzy of doomsday appeared. The 6-feet-long sword was sharp and threatening. With the demonic sword in hand, Xia Zi's figure flashed out instantly. He slashed down with his sword and the sword chi was vast and mighty. The half-god demon raised his hands and clasped them together to block the demonic sword. Ha! Knowing that the demon in front of him was not a good person, Xia Zi unleashed all his strength. Black feathers fluttered around his body and the 12 wings of sin appeared. With the 12 wings of sin appearing, Xia Zi's aura increased several times. He vaguely broke through the shackles of the monarch realm and touched the barrier of the sovereign realm. The frenzy of doomsday sensed it, and the sword hummed. The demonic sword's edge burned brighter as it slashed down forcefully. Boom! The sword chi slashed down and a huge sword mark appeared on the half-god demon's body. It was so deep that the bones could be seen. The demon's blood splattered and dyed the void red. However, a shocking scene occurred in the next moment. The demon's blood flowed in the void and returned to the demon's body. The sword wound on the half-god demon's body quickly healed. After a while, it was completely healed. Outside the battle, Mu Qianshang and Luo Xingchen's eyes narrowed. What kind of monster was this? Find a chance to leave. In the void, Xia Zi stepped in the air and retreated 100 feet away. Roar! At this moment, the half-god demon roared at the sky. Suddenly, the surrounding heaven and earth distorted violently. The space changed and there was no way out. In the battle, Xia Zi's face sank. This monster actually had a consciousness. We can't retreat and can't kill it. This is really troublesome. Outside the battle, Mu Qianshang said, "Let's fight and see. This monster must have a weakness. It's just that we haven't found it yet." Since there was no way out, Xia Zi focused his mind. The demonic sword swept across and dense demonic flames swept out. The peerless demonic sword's sword chi filled the sky. Xia Zi moved and charged forward again. Heaven and demons started the battle. The flames of war spread for 3,000 miles. Wherever the sword chi passed, the demonic flames burned the sky. The demon roared and controlled the laws of heaven and earth to kill the heaven-defying demon. Below, Mu Qianshang stared at the battle in the sky. The snow sword in his hand flickered, and he was ready to enter the battle at any time. In the battle in the sky, the demonic flames swept across. The black-robed demon moved and his demonic sword shone brightly as he battled the half-god demon. Violent collisions sounded one after another. The half-god demon could not be injured by swords and blades. The battle seemed to be evenly matched, but it was actually dangerous. Boom! Suddenly, the laws of heaven and earth devoured his body. Blood spurted out from Xia Zi's left shoulder. Without any warning, the demon's body was heavily injured. Below, Mu Qianshang focused and no longer dared to hesitate. He used his sword to split the landscape and join the battle. The sword realm was activated. The small world's power went against the great world's heavenly Tao law. The landscape sword realm shook violently and showed signs of collapsing. 100 feet away from the battle, Xia Zi stabilized his body. Demonic chi surged around him and suppressed the injury on his left shoulder. "Are you all right?" Not far away, Mu Qianshang asked. "It's nothing serious." Xia Zi replied, "Be careful. He is now equivalent to the heavenly Tao law. Do not be careless." Understood. Mu Qianshang nodded. He looked at the demonic god in front of him with a heavy heart. He did not know how such a monster was born. If it was left in this world, it would be a huge disaster. Just as the underworld's two kings were fighting the half-god demon, Ningchen stepped forward in the spatial crack. He released his spiritual sense and searched for the three's aura. In the surroundings, the spatial turbulence was whistling and constantly engulfing everything in the void. The terrifying space-time energy made people afraid to touch it. After an unknown period of time, a roar came again. It shook the space-time as the heavenly might swept over. The terrifying heavenly might enveloped him. Ning Chen's eyes flashed. He found it. Within the heavenly might, a familiar aura was faintly discernible. Compared to the heavenly might, it was very weak, but it was real. Ning Chen clenched his right hand and unsheathed the phoenix cry. He slashed with his sword and cleaved everything in front of him. When the sword light slashed down, the space-time collapsed. Ning Chen took a step forward. His body was covered in phoenix fire and he instantly disappeared. In an instant, phoenix fire lingered in the heaven demon battlefield. A white-haired figure in plain clothes walked out. He swung his sword and blocked the heavenly might. At the back, Hua Zhongdia, Luo Xingchen, and the others were shocked when they saw the white-haired young man. Knowing destiny. Chapter 1305. In the crack of time and space, On the battlefield of heaven and demons, knowing destiny appeared and slashed the laws in the sky. Both inside and outside the battlefield, the kings were shocked. No one expected knowing destiny to appear here. Xiazi came back to his senses and said, "Be careful, this monster has an immortal body." In the void, Ning Chen's eyes flashed with surprise when he heard this. Immortal body? Roar! The half-god roared, and a horrifying aura spread out. The endless laws of heaven and earth pressed down, and its power was earth-shattering. In front, Ning Chen stepped forward and avoided the aura. 100 feet away, he slashed with his sword, and a phoenix howled. With a rumble, waves surged out, and frost swept across the sky, blocking the aura of heaven and earth. In the aftermath, Ning Chen's figure flashed and appeared in front of the demon. He raised his hand and grabbed the demon's head, and black phoenix fire gushed out. The extreme in fire was bone-chilling, and the half-god's body was frozen at a speed visible to the naked eye. The black fire burned and swallowed the demon. Heavenly dragon quake. The demon was frozen, and Ning Chen's left palm was filled with energy. He struck out with an earth-shattering power. There was a violent tremor, and the half-god was sent flying 10 miles away. There were cracks all over his body, and his blood dyed the black phoenix fire red. The demon roared in pain, and the laws of heaven and earth around him shook violently and messily. Seeing that his move was effective, Ning Chen stepped forward and charged forward again. The phoenix cry divine sword slashed through the laws of heaven and earth that were protecting the demon. The sword's power was endless, and it slashed down. The sword slashed the demon, and blood splattered everywhere. Horrifying sword wounds appeared on the demon's body, and the white bones were exposed. It was terrifying. The demon roared, and the laws of heaven and earth revolved. The splattered demon's blood flowed in reverse, and the miraculous scene was incomprehensible. Seeing this, Ning Chen squinted his eyes. He flipped his left palm, and the sky was filled with golden light. The heavenly book appeared, and a strange power erupted, causing chaos in the world. The new chapter of the heavenly book, Chaos Volume, showed its power. In an instant, the laws of heaven and earth changed rapidly, and it was extremely chaotic. In the void, the blood of the demon stopped flowing. The demon roared in pain, and the wounds on his body stopped healing. Outside the battle, Luo Xingchen was astonished. He immediately drew his bow and condensed an arrow. In the blink of an eye, a terrifying arrow light pierced through the air and crashed into the fiend god's body. When the arrow light entered his body, the blood of a fiend god gushed out. The chaos scroll interfered with the laws of heaven and earth, making it difficult for a half-fiend god to use his power. The half-god fiend who had stolen the fortune of heaven and earth from the 10 scrolls of the heavenly tomes and heavily injured the 2 human kings was finally showing signs of defeat. An opportunity presented itself. Xiazi took a step forward in the battlefield. His silhouette dashed out rapidly as the mad demonic flames of doomsday surged violently. Devil cultivator, devil sword, man and sword as one. Amidst the surging devil flames, a black stream of light sped past, rumbling through the starry sky. The devil sword broke through gods and devils. Amidst the shocking scene, a huge hole appeared in the demonic god's chest. Blood gushed out like rain. Roar! The god-fiend was heavily injured and on the brink of death. An earth-shattering roar reverberated through the space-time crack. Half of the god-fiend's body rapidly turned into dust. It had actually transformed into Tao once again. It was a horrifying scene. The god-fiend's entire body transformed into Tao. Before disappearing, a bone-chilling hatred flashed through his lifeless eyes, causing one's hair to stand on end. After the god-fiend transformed into Tao, the laws of heaven and earth that were interfered with by the Chaos Scroll suddenly went berserk. Boundless power of heaven and earth pressed down, killing everyone present. In the center of the battlefield, Ning Chen, Xiazi, and Mu Qianshang's expressions all froze. The 3 swords rose together and sword might spread out, forming a small world. Within the space-time crack, an extreme small world appeared, forcefully resisting the power of a large world. Luo Xingchen, take female supreme and senior sister Dai and leave first. Ningchen said in a serious tone. The phoenix cry divine sword's might soared as he slashed with all his strength, creating a bright path. With the support of the sword might, heaven and earth rumbled. On the path created by the divine sword, even the laws of heaven and earth couldn't descend. Knowing that time was precious, Luo Xingchen didn't dare to hesitate. He took the two who were heavily injured and quickly left. The three of them left. Inside the small world, the three best friends from the inner realm all erupted with their full cultivation. Endless sword energy swept out and dazzling sword energy rushed out from the small world and slashed toward the law of the heavens. Extreme power and heaven's might clashed. The large world changed color. Shocking collision sounds constantly rang out. Humans were fearless against the heavens. In the small world, the three swordsmen of the human race were filled with dazzling battle intent. Since when had they been afraid of heaven's will? I have a sky, but I was worried that I couldn't let it grow. Two good friends help me slash this sky. Ningchen said. As you wish. Xia Zi and Mu Qianshang replied. Their sword intent roared and surged. Unparalleled sword might slashed at the god-fiend great world. Roar! In the large world, the roar of the god-fiend could be heard. With their bodies transforming into Tao, their consciousness merged with heaven and earth. Their power became more and more shocking. The two forces clashed with each other. The sword might was endless. With the three of them working together, the small world continued to expand and corrode the large world. Between heaven and earth, the roar of the god-fiend became more and more ear-piercing. When they were alive, they were overlords. After death, they weren't willing to be humiliated by others. In the small world, Ningchen flipped his palm and a white cloud flew out. The will of heaven and earth appeared. Although it was weak, it could be felt clearly. Not far away, Xia Zi and Mu Qianshang felt the will of heaven and earth that appeared in the small world. Their eyes flashed with surprise. A heaven and earth that could produce its own will was truly unbelievable. Roar! In the large world, the roar shook the heavens. Terrifying heaven's might filled the air. The pressure was comparable to that of an Emperor Tao sovereign, or even stronger. The difference in dimensions was irreparable. In the small world, the white cloud trembled and instinctively felt fear. What are you afraid of? Devouring this large world is equivalent to tens of thousands of years of cultivation. Ningchen shouted in a deep voice. He flipped his palm and sent the white cloud out of the small world with a single palm strike. In the large world, the two wills of heaven and earth clashed. The god-fiend roared and endless power crazily tried to devour the white cloud. At this moment, in the void, a shocking sword light broke through the void and forcefully shattered the laws of heaven and earth. If you don't want to become someone's bait, then show some momentum. Being afraid before the battle, how embarrassing! Ningchen shouted coldly as he looked at the white cloud in the sky that was trying to restrain itself. The white cloud trembled. Under its survival instinct, it finally tried to resist and devoured the overflowing power of heaven and earth. The wills of heaven and earth clashed. Below, in Ningchen's hand, the heavenly book shone again. Golden light filled the air and helped the white cloud to resist the will of the god-fiend. In the small world, the sword light was dazzling. The powerful sword power kept attacking the surrounding large world and cut the laws of heaven and earth into pieces. The three top swordsmen of the world joined forces again after the god-fiend battle. Their sword cultivation had surpassed the past. Even in the face of the heavenly path, they were not afraid. In the battle against the heavens, the three swords shook the world. After fighting for a few hours, Ningchen's figure rose into the sky. He held the sword in one hand and the golden book of the heavenly book in the other. He walked out of the small world and came to the god-fiend world. Below, Xia Zi and Mu Qianshang understood and shouted. The sword will around them rose again. The dazzling sword light pierced through the 9 heavens and drove away the darkness. It was so bright that it was difficult to look at it directly. With the help of the 2 swords, in the large world, Ningchen activated his peerless foundation. The sword tip swept across the sky and the forbidden sword appeared. In an instant, the majestic sword flow rushed into the sky like a storm. The shocking power shook the heaven and earth. 6 paths fall together, myriad demonic tribulations, supreme forbidden sword. With the appearance of the forbidden sword, the sword will around Ningchen spread. The shapeless sword will turn tangible and filled the air. The entire large world shook violently. Doomsday catastrophe. The forbidden sword destroyed heaven and earth. Wherever the sword flow went, heaven and earth collapsed. The strongest forbidden technique of Taoism, in the hands of knowing destiny, displayed the most terrifying power. Roar. In the god-fiend world, the roar shook the heavens. All the power of heaven and earth gathered at one point and collided with the Taoism forbidden sword. The laws of heaven and earth and the forbidden sword collided with each other. After a moment of stalemate, the sword flow broke through the obstacles and destroyed all the laws of heaven and earth. Boom, boom, boom. In the earth-shattering tremors, the god-fiend world continued to collapse. Everything withered and the laws were destroyed. The moment the large world collapsed, the white cloud expanded rapidly and seized every opportunity to devour the remaining will of heaven and earth. The laws of heaven were merciless. One level of heaven grew while the other level of heaven died silently. The laws reconstructed and everything manifested. The white cloud quickly absorbed the power of the large world to strengthen itself. In the void, Ningchen watched the growth of the will of heaven and earth in front of him and did not interfere. Suddenly, in the void, the white cloud that took over all the power of the god-fiend world manipulated the laws of heaven and earth and attacked knowing destiny in the void. The attack was like a tidal wave. All the laws of heaven and earth were mobilized. The heaven and earth shook. It was a terrifying scene. In the void, Ningchen stood quietly without any change in his expression. He raised his left hand and the light of the forbidden sword lit up in every corner of the void. Suddenly, heaven and earth trembled. The laws of heaven and earth faded quickly and disappeared in an instant. I said that if I can make you, I can also destroy you. Don't do such a stupid thing again. Next time, my punishment for you will not be so simple. As soon as he finished speaking, Ningchen clenched his left hand. Endless suctions spread and confined the white cloud in front of him into the forbidden space. After doing this, Ningchen's figure landed. He looked at the 2 people in front of him and said, "Let's go." Xia Zi and Mu Qianshang nodded. Their figures flashed and flew out of the void. At the border of the 2 domains, outside the space crack, Phoenix fire spread. The 3 figures appeared and successfully escaped from the void. In front, Luo Xingchen saw the 3 of them walking out. His face was filled with joy and his heart was finally at ease. "Let's go back to the underworld," Ningchen said as he strode forward. Luo Xingchen, Xia Zi and the rest followed and rushed towards the underworld. A few days later, in the sky above the underworld, everyone returned. The forbidden sword opened and they walked in one after another. "We're back." The kings of the various palaces in the underworld also felt relieved. In front of the King Yanluo Palace, Ningchen looked at the 2 women who were heavily injured and said, "Senior Sister Dai, Female Supreme, you 2 stay here and heal your injuries first. We'll talk about other matters after you've recovered." Hua Zhongdia and Female Chang nodded. They did not say much and entered the palace to cultivate. After settling the 2, Ningchen turned and walked to the adjacent King Yanluo Palace. In the King Yanluo Palace, Qing Ning stood quietly. She looked at the person who came and asked, "What's the matter?" Ningchen nodded lightly and said, "I feel a little uneasy and want to talk to Sister Qing Ning." Chapter 1306. In the royal palace of Bian City, Ning Chen and Qing Ning looked at each other. They had been through so much together, and the other was the last bit of warmth in their hearts. "You always come and go in a hurry. Aren't you tired?" Qing Ning went up and wiped away the frost on the young man's face. "I always thought that I could stop and rest after solving the problem in front of me. I didn't expect that this would last for more than 100 years, Ningchen said helplessly. "When the war between the human race and the primordial demon realm ends, just let it go." Qing Ning said gently, "There are too many troubles in the world. You can't manage them all. Actually, you don't have to worry about us. Even if the human realm is occupied by the other races, we can still protect ourselves. Ningchen smiled and said, "Yes, I don't care." He wanted to create a peaceful world for them. He hoped that after the primordial demon realm's calamity, the human realm could truly return to peace. What about Qing Shui? Is there any news? I haven't had the chance to ask these days. Cheng Shui is a good girl. Don't let her down, Qing Ning said softly. Ning Chen was silent. He shook his head and said, "Ever since she left last time, there has been no news. I've already sent people from the ghost race to search for her, but they haven't found anything." Qing Ning sighed and looked at the impermanence palace in front of her. Her eyes flashed with emotion. There was still that girl. She was still waiting. In the impermanence palace, a man seemed to sense it. She looked back and smiled. In the royal palace, Qing Ning retracted her gaze and looked at the young man in front of her. She said seriously, "I won't force you when it comes to matters of the heart, but don't let yourself regret it." Ning Chen nodded and said, "I understand. In 2 days, I might have to leave for some time. I'll have to trouble Sister Qing Ning to take care of the matters of the underworld." "You're leaving?" Qing Ning frowned. When the demon body returned to the primordial demon realm, the ghost sword was damaged in the battle. The 10 years will be over soon. I have to find a suitable sword as soon as possible, Ning Chen replied. Qing Ning heard this and nodded lightly. This matter can't be delayed. You don't have to worry about the underworld. Sister Qing Ning, I'm lucky to have you along the way. Thank you. Ning Chen looked at the woman who had accompanied him for 100 years and said seriously. Qing Ning stretched out her hand and lightly knocked his head before she said, "All right, don't be so mushy with me. Go take a look at Aman. You haven't had the chance to speak to her since you've been back for so long. That little girl has been waiting for you for so many years. Even I can't bear to see her like this." Ning Chen nodded and said, "I'll head over now." After he finished speaking, Ning Chen didn't delay any further and strode towards the Hall of Impermanence. In the Imperial Palace, Qing Ning looked at Yi Futian's back and sighed in her heart. Yi Futian was still so worrisome. When Ning Chen arrived at Impermanence Hall, a man was standing in front of the hall. Her cute and obedient appearance was very lovable. "Let's go out for a walk?" Ning Chen chuckled. "All right." A man replied with a smile. "You've been in the underworld for so long, but you haven't looked around yet, have you?" The two of them walked side by side. Ning Chen temporarily put down his burden and focused on admiring the scenery of the underworld with the woman beside him. "I've seen some, and some I haven't." A man said honestly. "Where do you want to go?" Ning Chen asked with a gentle expression. A man thought for a moment, and then she stretched out her hand and pointed at an enormous mountain range in the distance while her eyes were filled with curiosity. "Over there. The Yin Sea Ghost Prison." Ning Chen followed her gaze and chuckled. "That's the territory I opened up for the ghost race. Since you want to go, then let's go take a look." The two of them walked side by side. The woman had a delicate appearance. She wasn't gorgeous or enchanting, but she had an extremely spiritual aura that made others unable to bear to disrespect her. Beside the woman was a man in plain clothes with white hair. Even though his appearance was young, his eyes were filled with the traces of time. In merely 100 years, the two of them who were similar in age seemed to have a great gap between them. Time was merciless, and it had changed too many things. The Yin Sea Ghost Prison. Ning Chen walked over with a man. An enormous crack had appeared before them, and it was bottomless. "It's down there," Ning Chen reminded and spoke softly. A man glanced down curiously, yet she was unable to see through the ghost race's gorge. "Let's go. The ghost race should already know that we're here." Ning Chen strode forward and slowly descended. A man followed and rushed into the depths of the gorge. At the bottom of the gorge, the ghost race elders stood on two sides. A white bone throne floated in front of them. The ghost race king sat on the throne. He looked old, but his aura was abnormally powerful. At this moment, a ghost race spy walked forward quickly and bowed respectfully. "My king, the 13th prince is here. Invite him in," said the ghost race king. The ghost race spy accepted the order and left. Not long after, Two figures walked over in front of the ghost race. It was a man and a woman. They were a match made in heaven and looked like they had walked out of a painting. "My lord." The elders of the ghost clan bowed and said respectfully, "There's no need to be so polite. I'm just here to take a look." Ningchen replied with a smile. He looked at the Ghost Race King on the throne and said, "Ghost Race King, long time no see. How have you been?" In just a few years, the 13th prince's strength is already close to the Emperor Dao sovereign. It's really unbelievable. The Ghost Race King sighed. Ningchen smiled and said, "The Ghost Race King's cultivation is also not inferior to others. In time, it's not impossible for you to become an Emperor Dao sovereign." "I'm old." The Ghost Race King sighed softly and said, "The half-step Emperor Dao sovereign is already my limit. Unless I have a great opportunity, I won't be able to improve in this lifetime. 13th Prince, you're different. You've cultivated for less than 200 years and are in the prime of your life. As long as you continue smoothly, you'll definitely become an Emperor Dao sovereign and be the subject of the world." "Thank you, Ghost Race King. If that day really comes, I won't go back on my promise to you," replied Ningchen. "My clan trusts your reputation," said the Ghost Race King seriously. "There's something that I shouldn't ask, but since you're here, I still have to ask. Has the 6 paths of reincarnation that my clan gave you been destroyed?" Ningchen nodded and said apologetically, "I'm sorry. The 6 paths of reincarnation was destroyed in the battle with the emperors of the 100 races not long ago. It's my fault for not being able to protect the ghost race's saint artifact. You can't blame your highness for this." The Ghost Race King sighed. The 6 paths of reincarnation is only a king artifact. Naturally, it can't withstand a battle between emperors. Your highness's current strength has already surpassed the limits of the king realm. It's very difficult for a mortal artifact to withstand your power. Ghost Race King is very knowledgeable. "Are there any divine materials in this world that are suitable for making a sword?" asked Ningchen. At the bottom of the ocean, in the depths of the stars, and in the center of the earth fire, there are divine materials that are rarely seen in the mortal world. However, there are very few people who can use them to make weapons. "If your highness wants to make a sword, I'm afraid it'll take a lot of effort," said the Ghost Race King calmly. Hearing this, Ningchen's eyes flashed. The 3 places that the Ghost Race King mentioned were all places that ordinary people couldn't reach. Perhaps he could really find divine materials there. While the two were talking, a man curiously looked at the interior of the ghost race. She didn't pay attention to their conversation. "Little girl, if you're curious, you can walk around. The ghost race doesn't have so many rules. You can look around as you wish," said the Ghost Race King kindly when he noticed the beautiful girl beside the 13th prince. "Thank you, Ghost Race King," said a man with a smile. "Do you want to walk around by yourself, or do you want me to take you?" asked Ningchen softly. "You take me," replied a man. Ningchen nodded. He was about to move when he was stopped. The first elder of the ghost race stood in front of him and shook his head lightly. "Master, there are many rules in the ghost race. You should let this girl walk around by herself." Ningchen was startled. Then he laughed involuntarily. He looked at the girl beside him and said helplessly, "Ah man, walk around by yourself. Come back after you're done." Ah man smiled and walked forward. In front of the white bone throne, Ningchen looked at Aman's departing figure with a warm smile on his face from beginning to end. "Your Highness cares a lot about this little girl?" asked the Ghost Race King. "Her safety is more important than my life," said Ningchen indifferently. "She's a peerless genius. I have something unpleasant to say." "I hope your Highness won't take offense," said the Ghost Race King hoarsely. "There's no harm in speaking your mind," said Ningchen calmly. "Your Highness has the potential to become an emperor, but this little girl's potential is still above your Highness." "Your Highness is not worthy of her," said the Ghost Race King. As soon as he said this, the elders of the ghost race were shocked. Why did the Ghost Race King say this? Ningchen smiled and didn't care. He said, "The Ghost Race King is not the first person to say this, and you won't be the last. I want to know, do the ghost race really have so many rules?" "For your Highness, yes." The Ghost Race King said calmly. Your Highness is too smart, so smart that it makes people afraid. Although our ghost race has submitted to your Highness, we still have to leave some means to protect ourselves. So, there are many places that your Highness shouldn't look at. It seems that I'm really not popular. Ningchen laughed at himself and said, Don't worry, as long as the ghost race doesn't betray the human race, I won't attack the ghost race. Similarly, I won't sacrifice you. Thank you, replied the Ghost Race King. Half a day later, Ning Chen and Ah Man walked out of the Yin Sea Ghost Prison and walked towards the 12 palaces of the underworld. Is there anything strange in the ghost race? Asked Ning Chen. There are many strange things, replied Ah Man. Tell me about it. Ning Chen continued to ask. There are bones that can talk and stone monsters that can fly. Yes, there are also trees with arms. Ah Man smiled. The two of them left. In the depths of the ghost race, white bones gathered, stones piled up, and trees uprooted from the ground. An incomparably powerful aura was awakened, and the pressure was pressing down on the Emperor realm. What a clever girl! The 13 sons of the heavenly demon are so terrifying. The white skeleton said in a deep voice. We have to be careful of this boy. The giant made of stones replied. I'm afraid that it's impossible to guard against him. The tree said, 3 venerables, it's not time for you to awaken yet. Continue to sleep. On the white bone throne, the Ghost Race King said calmly. Chapter 1307. 2 figures walked in front of the Impermanence Palace in the underworld. A day passed so quickly. You can just send me here. Man stopped and looked at the man beside her. She said softly, I know you have things to do. You can go. Ningchen nodded and smiled apologetically. I'll stay with you for a few more days next time. The man smiled sweetly and said, Go on. Ningchen nodded and left without further delay. After a few breaths, Ningchen's figure flew away quickly. He returned for 2 days and left again. In front of the Impermanence Palace, Man looked at Ningchen's back and a trace of undetectable sadness flashed in her beautiful eyes. In the Ziwei Star Zone, a white beam of light flashed and disappeared. On an unknown planet, waves rolled. The entire planet was covered by seawater and huge waves surged into the sky. The magnificent scene was shocking. On this day, a white-haired figure in plain clothes appeared in the sky above the planet. He stopped for a moment and then rushed into the ocean below. At the bottom of the ocean, a terrifying pressure came from all directions. Ningchen's body was surrounded by the light of the divine prohibition. He separated the space and time and blocked the pressure of the seawater. In the deepest part of the ocean, Ningchen scanned with his divine sense, looking for the legendary deep-sea iron essence. For a few days, Ningchen walked in the depths of the ocean and searched every inch of the ocean. 5 days later, the white-haired figure broke out of the ocean and flew toward the starry sky. The starry sky was vast and the white-haired figure flew quickly. Ningchen stopped in front of a dead planet again. He looked at the planet in front of him and gathered his true qi. He punched the planet in front of him. Boom! The person with the strongest foundation in the mortal realm had unparalleled strength. He directly shattered the planet in front of him. Amidst the rumbling, cracks appeared on the planet, crisscrossing and spreading across the entire planet. Ningchen's figure flashed and disappeared into the cracks. Half a day later, Ningchen's figure flew out and left again. In the starry sky, the knowing destiny state cultivators traveled day and night. Every time they reached a planet and got something they wanted, they would leave quickly. Another month later, Ningchen's figure descended from the sky above a primitive planet. It was the first time he landed on a planet with life. On the large planet, volcanoes were active. Magma gushed into the sky, and soon after, it turned into a rain of fire that fell from the sky. It was a shocking scene. Ningchen's figure passed through the rain of fire. He stopped in the air above the mountain pass to take a look. Then, without any hesitation, he jumped in. In the depths of the volcano, red lava surged. The extremely shocking temperature was comparable to the blazing sun, burning the sky and boiling the sea. Inside the lava, Ningchen plunged down rapidly. In the blink of an eye, he was already thousands of miles away. In order to forge the divine sword, knowing destiny had to go to heaven and earth, overturn rivers and seas, accumulating the divine materials to forge the divine sword bit by bit. 2 days later, a plain-clothed figure rushed out from the magma and flew into the starry skies. In the following few months, Ningchen ceaselessly moved about from great star to great star for the sake of searching for a thumb-sized divine material. Sometimes, he even had to search through over 10 great stars before he could obtain a harvest. The amount of godly materials needed to forge a sword was astonishing. In just 10 months, Ningchen had walked across nearly 100 great stars and shattered more than 10 great stars with his own hands. Immortal Elder, how much longer will it take? The small gourd asked as it appeared on Ningchen's shoulder. After 10 months, the small gourd had gained some weight. Many primitive great stars had rich natural treasures, and the small gourd had benefited from them all. Soon, Ningchen replied and continued flying toward the great star in front of him. In front of him, the great star was lifeless. There was no sign of life. Ningchen stopped in front of the great star and threw a punch at it. Amid the earth-shaking tremors, the great star cracked inch by inch. Ningchen raised his hand, and a piece of purple divine metal flew out from the ground 10,000 miles below the surface and fell into Knowing Destiny's hand. On Ningchen's shoulder, the small gourd glanced at the lifeless great star in front of him and immediately lost interest. After accumulating for so many days, the divine materials he obtained were still not enough to forge a sword. However, Ningchen did not look discouraged. His figure flashed and quickly flew away. At the border of the Ziwei star zone, thousands of meteors blocked the path ahead. Ningchen's figure rushed past without stopping. He smashed through meteors one after another and continued forward. In the Alcade star zone, Ningchen arrived in front of a primitive great star and stopped. After a while, Ningchen's figure flashed and flew toward the great star in front of him. Ningchen walked in the sea of earth fire and released his immortal will to search for divine materials of extreme yang. Just as Knowing Destiny was searching for materials to forge a sword, the kings of the 100 races gathered in the primitive demon zone and rushed toward the Red Phoenix star zone through the passage between the two realms. The promise of 10 years had not arrived yet. The primitive demon realm had gathered their forces in advance to prepare for the coming war. The Red Phoenix star zone was filled with death chi. Almost all the humans there had been slaughtered. The 100 races had completely occupied the Red Phoenix star zone and turned it into their base. In front of the demon army, Azura looked into the distance. The god of war could not suppress his desire to fight. The purpose of warriors' existence was to fight. 10 years was too long. Azura! In the sky, demonic chi surged. The demon emperor appeared and looked at the god of war in front of him. He said, "When the time is up, immediately send troops to the Ziwei star zone." Azura respectfully accepted the order. Ziwei star zone, underworld, King Bianqing Palace. Qing Ning looked at the secret report from the Red Phoenix star zone with a serious expression. The primitive demon realm was really impatient. They had already started to mobilize their forces. How long will it take for Marquis to come back? In the palace, Peacock, who had rushed over from the immortal realm, asked. The divine material he needs to forge the sword this time is too hard to find. I'm afraid he won't be able to come back in a short time, Qing Ning replied. The primitive demon realm might send troops early. Whether Marquis can come back in time or not, the underworld has to make a decision, Peacock said seriously. Hearing this, Qing Ning fell silent. When Ningchen left, he did not tell them what to do. No one knew if he did not realize it or did it on purpose. I suggest that Underworld avoid the brunt of the attack. After all, Underworld's current strength is still far from the primordial demon realm, Peacock said seriously. I'll think about it. Qing Ning sighed. When the Underworld was in a life-and-death situation, Marquis was not in the Underworld. He was running around the star zones to find the divine material to forge the sword. Time flew. In the blink of an eye, more than 10 months had passed. In the Alcade star zone, on a vast planet covered by a vast ocean, a white-clothed figure rushed into the sky. Her white hair danced in the wind. She held a palm-sized blue divine metal in her hand. Cold chi spread and her entire arm was almost frozen. It's finally enough. Ningchen clenched his right hand and shook off the ice on his arm. He looked forward and said, "Phoenix body." As soon as he said that, the sky was filled with phoenix fire. One was black and the other was red. "Let's begin," Ningchen said calmly. "Okay." The phoenix body responded and the phoenix fire disappeared. The next moment, the three divine materials of the sword embryo appeared in the sky. The phoenix fire circled around and swallowed the divine materials. On a strange, vast planet, the two of them worked together. The world was the furnace and the phoenix fire refined the divine weapon. Chapter 1308. On an unknown planet in the Alcade starfield, raging waves surged and rushed to the 9 heavens. Above the sea, knowing destiny forged swords. Phoenix fire filled the sky as he forged 3 types of divine metals. In front of the 2 bodies, deep sea iron essence, star scar divine gold, and fire essence blood copper, the 3 best forging materials in the world, floated up and down. After 2 years, knowing destiny traveled all over the Z-Way and Alcade starfields and searched for countless large planets. He finally gathered the 3 divine materials and began forging swords. The yin-yang phoenix fire burned the sky and boiled the sea. The black and red flames split the sky and the earth. The scene was shocking. In the phoenix fire, 3 sword embryos gradually took shape. The sword power was faintly discernible and extraordinary. The 2 bodies worked together to forge the peerless divine swords. Days passed by. In the phoenix fire, the 3 sword embryos kept spinning. The sword power became stronger and stronger. In the first 10 months, the phoenix fire forged the sword. The divine materials were forged into sword embryos. In the 10th month, the 2 bodies fully activated the yin-yang phoenix fire to refine the divinity of the divine materials. After the first 10 months, the sword embryos were forged. Above the 9 heavens, the wind and clouds surged. Thunderclouds spread and covered the sky. Before the divine swords were forged, the lightning tribulation had already appeared. In the tribulation clouds, thunder and lightning flashed across the sky. Below, Ningchen saw this and soared into the sky. His hands formed a seal, and countless seals spread out. The yellow spring opened and sealed the void. In an instant, the divine restriction formed a barrier between the heavens and the earth. Boom! Lightning fell. The divine restriction space swallowed the angry lightning, and the heavenly tribulation could not descend. In the void, Ningchen's figure landed again. He glanced at the phoenix body not far away and said calmly, "Continue." The phoenix body nodded. Phoenix fire spread out from its body. The black flames of extreme yin and the red flames of extreme yang surged, and its power became stronger. Gradually, the second 10 months passed. In the 10th month, the weather on the large planet changed. Heavy snow fell, and the weather was so cold that even the ocean was frozen. In the sky above the sea, the 2 bodies stood in the air. In front of them, the phoenix fire had reached the critical point of forging the sword. On the sword embryos, the impurities were gradually burned away. The refined divine weapon began to take shape. When the divine weapon appeared, Ningchen walked to the middle of the 2 swords. The blood of human and demon flew out from his hands at the swords. At the side, the phoenix body walked to the 3rd divine sword at the same time and cut its finger. Time flew by. In the sea of fire, human blood, demon blood, and phoenix blood floated up and down. Mu sword, yang sword. The 3rd 10th month was approaching. Both of their auras were weakened to different degrees. Their blood and chi merged into the sword, helping the divine weapon to take shape. In the blink of an eye, more than 2 years had passed. In the sky above the sea, the aura of the 3 divine swords became more and more shocking. Boom! Above the 9 heavens, the heavens sensed it. Lightning struck down, directly breaking through the divine restriction and destroying the 3 swords. In front, the 2 figures looked at the 3 divine swords and did not try to stop them. The divine sword was about to be completed, but it still lacked the refinement of the laws of heaven and earth. This heavenly tribulation was just right. In the 4th month, the lightning tribulation forged the swords. Tens of thousands of lightning bolts fell from the sky, bombarding the three swords. The three swords hummed softly. Lightning radiated from the swords, dazzling everyone's eyes. Just as the three divine swords were being tested by the heavens, the 100,000 demonic army in the Red Phoenix Galaxy set off for the Z-Way Galaxy. With the impending war looming, the entire Z-Way Galaxy was on high alert. The 12 kings of the underworld emerged from their seclusion and prepared to face the enemy. There's no time left. Can't you make a choice? In the royal palace of Bien City, Peacock looked at the woman in front and asked. In front of the royal palace, Qin Ning looked at the sky for a long time and sighed. Retreat. The underworld was his painstaking effort, but the lives of his companions were more precious. At the back, Peacock heard the woman's decision and did not say anything. Sometimes, the decision was not important. What was important was to make a prompt decision. Right and wrong, there were many times where there was no absolute standard. In the 12 kings of the underworld, Qin Ning's order was passed down. When the kings heard it, they all fell silent. King Pingdeng requests for battle. In the 9th king of hell, Xia Zi's voice echoed in the underworld. As soon as the voice fell, the hearts of the kings trembled. King Zhuanluan requests for battle. In the 10th king of hell, Luo Fei's voice sounded in everyone's heart. King Song requests for battle. After the two kings, in the 3rd king of hell, Mu Qianshang's voice sounded in a solemn tone. The three kings requested for battle. In the 1st king of hell, Luo Xingqian's face changed. Are these guys not afraid of death? Forget it, if they die, then die. King Qingguang requests for battle. Luo Xingqian gritted his teeth and declared. In the face of a great enemy, the kings from the divine prefecture's war of death all chose to fight, unwilling to retreat. King Wuguan requests for battle. At this moment, in the 5th king of hell, Inu's voice sounded, her tone was firm. The underworld was created by her master. She could not watch as the underworld was destroyed. Out of the 10 kings of hell, 5 of them declared their stance and half of the kings of hell requested for battle. In the underworld, the atmosphere suddenly became subtle. In the king of Chujiang's palace, Lin Yuzhen frowned. The difference in strength between the underworld and the demon realm's army was too great. Temporarily avoiding them was the best choice. However, the underworld's strength must not be scattered. Otherwise, they would be defeated one by one. Lin Yuzhen turned around and looked at the Phoenix Cry sword on the long table. After a long time, she sighed softly. Since they want to fight, then let's fight. King Chujiang requests for battle. Lin Yuzhen spoke and declared. 6 kings declared. In the king of Taishan's palace, Yixuan Miao held his sword and said indifferently, if you want to fight, then let's fight. In the king of Dusher's palace, King Aaron smiled beautifully and said, King Dusher requests for battle. In the underworld, the 8 kings all declared their stance. In the king of hell's palace, the demonic qi was turbulent. Nu Chang and Hua Zhongye were still in seclusion. Knowing destiny had not returned, the king of hell's palace was still without a master. In front of King Bianqing's palace, Qin Ning listened to the voices of the underworld's palace, and her heart was in turmoil. In the underworld's crisis, on an unknown planet in the Alcade starfield, knowing destiny, who had left the underworld for a few years, stood quietly in the void, concentrating, waiting for the moment of the sword's completion. On the vast planet, raging waves swept across, and huge waves rose to the sky. The birth of 3 peerless heavenly weapons was right in front of them, and the sword's power was earth-shattering. The thunder tribulation was about to end, and the power of the 3 heavenly swords was even more shocking. 10 months of forging, quenching, nurturing, and forming. Countless days and nights, the 2 of them worked together to forge the swords, and the peerless heavenly weapons finally appeared. At the top of the 9 heavens, the thunder tribulation was in its final frenzy. The heavenly swords were about to be formed, and Xian Tsang was furious. The tribulation clouds changed from black to red, and the color of blood was dazzling. After a few breaths, the blood-red lightning struck down, dyeing the entire sky red. Under the lightning, Ning Chen and the phoenix body held their swords at the same time. In an instant, a horrifying sword intent erupted, and the sword's power soared to the 9 heavens. The two of them waved their swords, and the power shook the sky. A shocking scene appeared. In the sky above the sea, heaven and earth were directly cut open, and 2 huge cracks appeared. The void spread and swallowed the tribulation clouds. Between the two of them, the 3rd heavenly sword floated up and down. The demonic chi was restrained, and the sharpness was not released. Let's go back. The tribulation disappeared, and Ning Chen waved his hand to put away the demonic edge. He glanced at the phoenix body not far away and said, "Okay." The phoenix body nodded and disappeared. Then, a huge phoenix shadow appeared between heaven and earth, and the phoenix spread its wings and soared into the sky. The heavenly sword was forged, and knowing destiny returned, crossing 2 star fields and rushing to the underworld. Chapter 1309. Demonic clouds loomed over the Z-Way star zone. An army of 100,000 heavenly demons crossed the starry sky and covered the sun, shocking all the major factions. War chariots rumbled in front of the heavenly demon army. The heavenly demon kings stood on hundreds of war chariots. Ahura, the war god of the demons, stood on the largest war chariot in front of the war chariots. His half-step emperor's aura was so shocking that it distorted the starry sky around him. In the underworld, the 12 palaces of the underworld stood between 2 giant stars. The human kings were ready for battle. The atmosphere was extremely tense. The 10-year time limit was approaching. In the primordial demon realm, 2 demon emperors were looking for traces of the underworld day and night. The 2 emperors worked together and parted the clouds, searching for traces in the endless laws of heaven and earth. Found it. After many days, Demon Emperor Kuin's eyes flashed. He said, "Every time the human kings disappear here, the underworld must be nearby." Not far away, 7 Brilliance Demon Emperor opened his eyes and said, "I'll send the coordinates of the star zone to Ahura immediately." Demon Emperor Kuin said in a deep voice, "Go and help Ahura in person." 7 Brilliance Demon Emperor frowned slightly and said, "If I go, the human emperors will definitely interfere. I'm afraid it's not a good idea." "Don't worry about the human emperors." Demon Emperor Kuin said calmly, "They won't dare to do anything with me around." 7 Brilliance Demon Emperor's eyes flashed with surprise. He said, "Brother, you're going to the sky beyond heaven yourself?" "That's right." Demon Emperor Kuin said coldly, "The decisive battle is coming soon. I should go to the sky beyond heaven myself." 7 Brilliance Demon Emperor's face turned serious. If his brother was going to go, it seemed that the decisive battle was coming soon. Demonic chi surged around the underworld in the Z-Way star zone. The heavenly demon kings showed up in the demonic chi and surrounded the underworld. Ahura walked out in front of the kings. He held the fire beacon and the black demonic spear. "It wasn't easy to find you," Ahura said in a deep voice. He threw the demonic spear with all his might. The demonic might crashed into the divine restriction above the underworld. The entire starry sky started to tremble. Under the terrifying impact of the demonic might, the divine seal in the sky above the underworld showed signs of instability, as if it would collapse at any moment. In front of the 12 palaces of the underworld, one after another, the figures of the human kings flashed past, leaping into the sky. The Yamakings of the 9 palaces, the Anitya Hellguards, and the black and white Anitya Hellguards, all of Hell's forces were mobilized to resist the demonic tribulation. In the starry sky, the 11 human kings stood in the air, their king's might rising and shaking the heavens and earth. "So, you've been hiding such powerful strength." Ahura looked at the 11 peak kings and said indifferently. Among the kings of the underworld, Xia Zi stepped forward. Demonic chi surged from his body as the frenzy of doomsday manifested. "Send the others away. You and I will go one-on-one," Xia Zi said. "You overestimate yourself," Ahura said coldly. He swept his gaze across the otherworldly demon monarchs and ordered, "All of you, retreat 50 kilometers away." In front of the underworld's kings, Xia Zi also raised his hand, stopping Mu Qianshang and the others from stepping forward. He wanted to use his sword to fight for a chance of survival for the underworld. This was a battle that would determine the survival of Hell. Even before the battle had begun, the atmosphere of the battle had already become oppressive. Spear light rose, sword intent rose. The battle between humans and demons had begun. All the kings watched as the spear and sword clashed. Clones intertwined, illusory yet real. Extreme in martial arts, absolute at the peak. The devil's war god spear was domineering, each move destructive. The equal palace master's sword roared through the 9 continents. Her demonic might was vast, and she did not lose out to anyone. In a head-on confrontation, the battle between the peak of the 2 realms was a battle of martial arts, a battle of life and death. After exchanging 10 moves, Azura's demonic might rose rapidly. His secret technique was revealed, and his strength multiplied. Flames swept across, and the overbearing king destroyed the endless starry sky. In front of him, Xiazi waved his sword to block the attack. The web between his thumb and forefinger split open, and blood spurted out. The battle situation changed, but the equal palace master did not retreat. The black feathers around her fluttered, turning into the 12 wings of sin. With the support of the Nether King's power, Xiazi's aura also rose sharply. He slashed with his sword and counterattacked. With a rumble, the 2 forces collided. The battle was separated, and both of them took a few steps back. The 2 kings started their battle. Far away, in the Red Phoenix star zone, on a planet occupied by the heavenly demons, chaotic demonic chi surged, and the number 1 emperor of the heavenly demons walked out. The first Kuan demon emperor appeared in the human world. In an instant, the 3 human emperors sensed his presence, and their attention was drawn to him. The heavenly demon monarch, he recovered his cultivation so quickly. You want to fight? I'm happy to oblige. The first Kuan demon emperor felt the gazes of the 3 human emperors and said lightly. In the Ziwei star zone, the azure-robed fortune teller, the master of the immortal realm, and young master Xiaobai's expressions turned serious. They suppressed their urge to attack and chose to wait and see. In the underworld, the battle between the 2 kings shook the heavens. The fierce battle had yet to begin, and the wind and clouds surged wildly. 100 miles away from the battle, the heavenly demon monarchs surrounded the underworld. Behind them, the heavenly demon army grew larger and larger. An admirable opponent. Unfortunately, I can't let you live. In the battle, Azura said in a deep voice. The flames left his hands, and his palms condensed a peerless demonic technique. The earth-shattering demonic might spread rapidly, drowning the battlefield. Seeing this, Xiazi raised his mad doomsday and pointed at the ground. The demonic aura surged wildly, and his power was extremely terrifying. Just as the 2 kings' ultimate techniques were about to clash, and the outcome was about to be decided, the 7 Brilliance Demon Emperor appeared in the void. He didn't say a word and slammed his palm down on the battlefield. The sudden change shocked everyone present. They wanted to help, but it was too late. At the critical moment, Phoenix cries could be heard from afar. Before anyone could react, Ningchen appeared and blocked the 7 Brilliance Demon Emperor's fatal palm strike with his sword. You finally came out. The 7 Brilliance Demon Emperor clenched his right fist, and his murderous intent burst out. Without any warning, the 7 Brilliance Demon Emperor moved and threw a punch, shattering the starry sky. At the center of the attack, Ningchen swung his sword, and endless sword intent clashed with the heavenly demon monarch's might. Knowing Destiny Marquis returned. Outside the battle, the human emperors recovered from the shock, and joy flashed across their faces. Bring out your strongest form, or you'll die. The 7 Brilliance Demon Emperor said coldly. He flipped his left palm, and demonic suns flew out of nowhere. The 7 demonic suns kept spinning between heaven and earth. The imperial might was shocking, and it suppressed all the kings present. Now is enough to deal with you. Ningchen responded. He slashed down with his divine sword, and a blast of air filled the sky. In front, the 7 Brilliance Demon Emperor raised his hand to block the sword chi. He channeled his demonic essence and counterattacked. In the starry sky, Ningchen took a strange step, and his body moved like an illusion. The demonic suns circled around him, blocking his path of retreat. The Seven Brilliance Demon Emperor took a step forward and pressed forward. It was a shocking battle. The battle had reached its climax as soon as it started. The divine sword in Ning Chen's hand glowed with purple light. The sword swept across and blocked the demonic might again. Boom! A huge force came, and Ning Chen's body slid back 100 feet. However, his expression was still calm. Ning Chen waved his hand, and the heavenly book of creation appeared. The 10 scrolls flipped, and the wind and thunder of heaven and earth changed. Chapter 13:10. In the sky above the underworld, the heavenly demon army pressed down on the border. The demon emperor personally arrived on the battlefield, and his imperial might shook the heavens and the earth. The appearance of the emperor shocked all the kings. At the critical moment, the phoenix whistled in the sky from afar. Knowing destiny rushed back in time. Ning Chen did not dare to be careless in front of a powerful enemy. He flipped his left palm and the golden book of the heavenly book appeared. The open heavenly tome scroll emitted a golden light. Between heaven and earth, the wind and clouds changed and thunder rumbled. Heavenly book of creation. The Seven Brilliance Demon Emperor's eyes widened. Someone in the human world had mastered all 10 heavenly tomes. The 10 scrolls gathered together, seizing the fortune of heaven and earth. Dazzling golden light surrounded Ning Chen's body, making him look like a supreme emperor, shocking everyone. The Seven Brilliance Demon Emperor's expression darkened. His demonic aura surged as the 7 demonic suns circled around him. A terrifying temperature spread across the place, evaporating all the water vapor in the surroundings. Facing the demon sovereign again, Ning Chen moved his body and his sword, striking first to gain the initiative. The divine sword began to show its sharpness. The sword light was dazzling. The star-scar divine gold from 100 great stars had been refined into a sword. Its sharpness was threatening. Sword technique, wind and thunder transformation. The sword drew wind and thunder, and a great battle began. Between heaven and earth, lightning surged, and the scene was shocking. The Seven Brilliance Demon Emperor's face stiffened slightly when the attack came close to him. He raised his hand to block the sword as his demonic aura surged rapidly. Rumble! Sword chi and demonic chi shook violently as a terrifying shockwave spread out. The kings around the battlefield were all forced to take a few steps back. At the center of the battle, the Seven Brilliance Demon Emperor threw out his left fist and counterattacked. Ning Chen focused and held the heavenly book of creation in front of him to block the demonic power. The demonic might attacked, and the heavenly book's brilliance shone brightly, neutralizing the ruler's attack. After a round of attack and defense, they were evenly matched. After 100 years of practicing the sword, he finally reached the peak today. Rumbling sounds resounded through the starry skies. The two individuals unleashed all of their fighting prowess. Their figures continuously intersected. The great battle had just begun, but it was already white-hot. The divine sword forged from the star-scar divine gold was indestructible. Even an Emperor Dao sovereign would find it difficult to destroy it easily. In the center of the battle, the human and the devil fought fiercely. The human and the sword moved, their sword techniques were unpredictable, and their killing moves were endless. It was a simple yet sharp sword. Every move was filled with murderous intent. Its extraordinary speed combined with the supreme sword intent forcefully made up for the difference in cultivation. On the other hand, the devil ruler had 7 suns circling around his body. His cultivation base was unparalleled, and every move he made had the power to destroy the world. This was the battle at the peak of the human world. It was a battle that surpassed the king realm and defied the heavens to slay immortals. It was an all-out white-hot battle. Victory or defeat was only a matter of time. While the humans and demons were fighting, in the Z-Wei Galaxy and the Hongluan Galaxy, the human clan and the demon territory's supreme emperors were facing each other from afar. The situation was equally tense. In the Red Phoenix Star area, Demon Emperor Kun-E appeared alone. His powerful deterrence made the 3 human emperors not dare to act rashly. All their attention was on this celestial devil monarch. He was the only one of the 10 great demon monarchs of the ancient times who had survived to this era. He was a supreme expert comparable to the immortal monarchs of the ancient times. His strength was immeasurable, and he could pluck the stars with a raise of his hand. He could fight against gods and demons. Even in the ancient times where experts were numerous, he was still an absolute expert. In the face of such a powerhouse, the 3 sovereigns of the human race no longer had the energy to divert their attention. The crisis of the underworld could only be resolved by Ji Ming and the others. In the Red Luan Star region, the first demon emperor stood in the air. Demonic chi surged around him, covering the stars in the sky. He was the most powerful demon in the world. Just one person was enough to intimidate the world. In the underworld, the battle between humans and demons was the focus of the 2 realms. With the divine sword in his hand, Ji Ming's sword intent rose endlessly. He unleashed his unparalleled sword cultivation and broke through the limits of the human world. He vaguely touched the barrier of the imperial path. With a slash of his sword, the laws of the world collapsed rapidly. The sword that had formed its own Tao kept improving and growing in the battle. The heaven-defying battle of immortals was like a portrayal of Ji Ming's life. With a powerful enemy in front of him, he could only survive by becoming stronger. He had practiced the sword for 100 years, and the world was his witness. His every move was refined and refined. On the battlefield, an army of 100,000 heavenly demons rushed over and stood in the starry sky. Once Ji Ming lost, the army of 100,000 elite heavenly demons would wipe out the underworld. There was no room for failure in this battle. Ning Chen's battle intent became more and more intense. The divine sword and the heavenly book, one attacking and one defending, were perfect. He showed the demeanor of a supreme expert for the first time. Compared to when you were in the primordial demon realm, you've become stronger. The 7 Brilliance Demon Emperor said coldly. He still couldn't gain the upper hand after dozens of exchanges. Unfortunately, Demon Emperor, you haven't improved at all. Ning Chen replied calmly. The divine sword turned around, and a purple sword glow lit up the world. Love of snow. The sword turned around, and snow fell from the sky. Endless cold air spread, freezing the scorching hell in the world. 3,000 miles of sword snow. The ultimate technique of Taoism appeared again. Ning Chen swung his sword, and snow fell from the sky for 3,000 miles. The world of ice and snow and the 7 suns' demonic hell clashed with each other. The world immediately turned gray, and everything returned to chaos. Ugh! The remaining force spread. The 2 figures were knocked a few steps back at the same time. Blood flowed out of their mouths. The 7 Brilliance Demon Emperor raised his hand and wiped away the blood at the corner of his mouth. He looked at the blinding red on his hand. His dignity as a ruler suffered a blow again. He clenched his right hand, and the red color was unconcealable. Cracking sounds came from his knuckles. The 7 Brilliance Demon Emperor's eyes turned dark. Not a single white part of his eyes could be seen. When a ruler was infuriated, his demonic nature completely took over his consciousness. Roar! The next moment, an earth-shattering roar came from the sky. The entire starry sky began to shake violently. 100,000-foot-tall demonic figure appeared. Its terrifying demonic essence roared and surged. Its presence quickly spread to every corner of the starry sky. Not good. Both inside and outside the battlefield, the expressions of the human kings changed. They looked at the 100,000-foot-tall demonic figure in front of them with shock. The powerful demonic aura was several times stronger than before. The starry sky around the demonic figure was distorted. Even the starlight was devoured. The shocking scene froze the atmosphere on the battlefield. The kings of the 2 realms backed away again, unwilling to be affected by the imperial aura. The white-haired knowing destiny stood in the sky in front of the 100,000-foot-tall demonic figure. He stared at the demonic figure in front of him without much change in his expression. Humans had their own paths, and demons had their own demonic paths. Demons were powerful, but humans were no weaker. Today, I'll use my sword to slay demons and protect humans. Ning-Chen said coldly. He held his sword in front of him and yelled. The heavenly book disappeared into his body. Giant waves surged in his Dantian's sea of qi. Knowing destiny gathered all his strength. The celestial devil monarch was about to arrive and the whole starry sky turned dark. The supreme experts who had lived from the ancient times to this era were practically undefeatable existences in this era where everything had withered. They had surpassed the sovereign Tao and reached a whole new level. In the starry sky, the phoenix sped past. Behind it, great stars flew into the distance one after another, crossing through time and space. Its speed became faster and faster. Where are you planning to escape to? Within the demonic clouds, a majestic voice sounded. Demonic might swept out as a palm pressed down. The starry sky collapsed inch by inch wherever the devil might arrived. It was like a surface of ice that had suffered a heavy blow. Cracks crisscrossed the starry sky before it shattered with a bang. Below, phoenix flames filled the air. Ning-Chen walked out, and the divine sword in his hand glowed with purple light. He swung the sword to block the demonic palm. Rumbling sounds reverberated through the starry skies. The demonic might was difficult to block. It directly crushed the sword light and slapped down. The most terrifying one was the celestial devil monarch. He surpassed all the emperors in the mortal world and was shockingly powerful. At this critical moment, phoenix flames surged around Ning-Chen's body. His body blurred instantly. The phoenix secret technique appeared again, and he avoided the fatal palm. The demonic palm passed through his body. In the distance, a great star exploded. Rocks flew everywhere and quickly turned into dust. In the starry sky, demonic clouds swirled. The first demon emperor's figure descended from the sky. The unparalleled demonic monarch's power shook the 9 heavens and 10 lands. 100 feet away, Ning-Chen's figure solidified. The phoenix flames around him disappeared, and his body regained control. One body, 3 transformations. You're the first person in thousands of years to cultivate your doppelganger to such a level. The first demon emperor stared at the 13 sons of the celestial devil monarch and said lightly, "You flatter me." Ning-Chen replied calmly. His divine sword turned, and the sword light flickered. The true battle of life and death was about to begin. Facing the most powerful monarch of the celestial devil clan, Ning-Chen's expression became serious. He shouted and dashed out. Boom! The sword slashed down. The first demon emperor raised his hand and blocked the extreme Tao sword with a clang. With the divine sword blocked, the first demon emperor pushed his palm even harder. The demonic might shook, and the knowing destiny cultivator in front of him was pushed back. The chaotic demonic might rushed forward. Ning-Chen's mouth turned red. He retreated a few steps, and blood dripped from the hand holding the sword. He had just gone through a great battle, and his body hadn't recovered yet. The terrifying power had yet to appear, but the order of heaven and earth was already in chaos. A strong sense of danger came. The first demon emperor's expression turned serious. He looked at the young man in front of him and didn't dare to hesitate anymore. He rushed out and attacked first. Just as the life scroll and the celestial demon king were about to clash, golden light shone brightly in the starry sky. An old figure walked out. He raised his withered hand and blocked the celestial demon king's attack. Marquis, you go first. Leave this to us. As soon as he finished speaking, the fortune teller in green appeared in front of him. He held a long staff in his hand and looked calm. In the void, Ning-Chen suppressed the forbidden technique and looked at the 2 human emperors in front of him. He was slightly stunned. This is your era. Go, there's still a long way to go. The fortune teller in green looked back and smiled. Even in the face of life and death, he still looked calm. The master of the godly realm and the celestial demon king exchanged a few blows and separated. The master of the godly realm glanced at Jiming behind him and said in a hoarse voice, "Go, as long as you're alive, there's hope for the human race. From now on, you're the new master of the godly realm. Venerable Changsheng and I are old. We're already satisfied to see the new master of the godly realm." Then, the master of the godly realm didn't say anything else. He rushed out and stopped the celestial demon king. "You're overestimating yourself." The first demon emperor's expression darkened. He gathered his demonic chi and punched the starry sky. The impact of the demonic chi destroyed the starry sky. The master of the godly realm didn't retreat and took the demonic chi head-on. Blood flowed out and dripped down. Even the master of the godly realm dissolved the invincible demonic chi. "Don't let our sacrifice be in vain. Go." The fortune teller in green turned his palm and poured in his demonic chi. The power of the emperor's path exploded and sent Jiming, who was seriously injured, out of the battle. Then he rushed out and joined the battle. The two human emperors joined forces, and the battle became heated. The terrifying emperor's path shook the starry sky. The three emperors fought, and the stars in the sky kept collapsing. They couldn't bear the terrifying power and quickly turned into dust. The demon emperor of the first Kunyi demon emperor did not seem to be at a disadvantage even when facing two human emperors. Every move he made was filled with destruction. The strongest devil fought against two human sovereigns alone and suppressed the human sovereigns. At the center of the battle, the fortune teller in green and the master of the godly realm looked at each other and saw the determination in each other's eyes. The new era had a leader, and it was time for them to do the last thing for the human race. He wondered how many more people would have to be sacrificed in order to obtain true peace. "It's time to give this to you." After saying that, Peacock raised his right hand. Immediately, a golden imperial seal descended from the sky. The terrifying pressure caused the sky to change color. Ziwei Holy Seal. Ning Chen's eyes widened slightly. The crepe myrtle divine realm's world-suppressing artifact. "From today onwards, you are the true master of the godly land," Peacock said. Ning Chen raised his hand, and the crepe myrtle saint's stamp slowly descended from the void and disappeared into his hand. When the new master of the divine realm returned, the kings of the divine realm on the floating islands around the peak felt something and bowed respectfully. "Greetings to the border lord." The kings bowed and respectfully welcomed the new lord of the divine realm. "Get up." On the mountain peak, Ning Chen spoke. His expression returned to normal. "Thank you, border lord." The kings stood up and responded. The kings bowed. In the void, a dragon roared and a white dragon appeared on the peak. "Greetings to the border lord." Young Master Xiaobai bowed respectfully. "Dragon Emperor, there's no need to be so polite." Ning Chen stepped forward and personally helped the new emperor of the dragon clan up. "Border lord, I have something to ask," young Master Xiaobai said. "Speak your mind," Ning Chen said calmly. "Have you really met my father?" Young Master Xiaobai asked seriously. "Yes." Ning Chen nodded and said, "In the tomb of the Dragon Emperor, I was fortunate enough to meet the previous Dragon Emperor. The Dragon Emperor's heroic appearance is still unforgettable." Young Master Xiaobai's eyes were filled with longing. If there was a chance, he really wanted to go back to the demon realm. "Border Lord, will we win?" Young Master Xiaobai sighed. "Yes." Ning Chen said affirmatively, "No matter what the price is." The last two emperors of the human race talked for a few hours. When the stars shone on the peak, young Master Xiaobai and Peacock left one after another. Only knowing destiny was left on the peak that reached the clouds. On the cold peak, a cold wind blew gently. White clothes fluttered in the wind. The peak alone was so cold. Ning Chen looked at the human world in front of him and stood there for a few hours. "What's wrong? Are you not used to it?" In front of the peak, Qin Ning walked over and looked at the former man and asked softly. Ning Chen turned around and looked at the person who came. He smiled and said, "I'm not used to it." In front of Qin Ning stood the man beside her and said, "The burden of the human world can only be borne by you for the time being." There were only two emperors left in the human world. Young Master Xiaobai was a dragon and could not take over the position of the Crepe Myrtle Realm Lord. Although she was unwilling, this position could only be taken by Ning Chen. After more than 10 moves, the strange feeling became clearer. The Western Sacred Master flipped his palm, and the flow of time in the battle changed again. In front of him, the three of them dodged the Emperor's attack and counterattacked. Boom! The Western sacred leader raised his hand to block the attacks of the three. He looked at Honorable Gu Yao with a serious expression and slowly said, "What are you waiting for? Heaven and earth divine restriction, time restriction. Demonic prairie fire." Demonic flames surrounded Xiazi's body, and his demonic aura could devour the heavens and the earth. The Western sacred master's expression turned serious again. He flipped his palm to block the attack. After a short delay, the three of them retreated safely. Power of the Netherworld King. The Western sacred master's expression became colder. He looked at the Night Lord and said coldly, "What about you? What trump cards do you have?" "I don't have any trump cards. I only have some special skills." After saying that, the Night Lord's body started to fade and disappeared. The Night Lord had used a true martial arts technique. The Western sacred master spread out his divine sense, but he couldn't sense the Night Lord's aura. A moment later, the power of darkness surged in the starry sky. The cloud dragon divine halberd pierced through the sky and slashed at the Renhuang in front of him. The Western sacred master raised his hand and blocked the first attack. Swallow goes and swallow returns. The Night Master's voice reverberated within the waves of gravitational force. The cloud dragon divine halberd turned around, filled with boundless killing intent. The Western sacred master stepped forward and dodged the cloud dragon divine halberd. He looked at the cloud dragon divine halberd, and his expression turned serious. An invisible opponent. The Night Lord lived up to his name. The three of them weren't ordinary kings. Individually, they wouldn't be much of a threat. However, when they worked together, even the Western sacred master had to be careful. No wonder the heavenly demon 13 Scions dared to face the upper demon realm. Apart from the dragon race emperor, they still had such a trump card. In front of the heavenly demon army, the first demon emperor's expression turned cold as he looked at the battle. The 13 Scions made him have a whole new level of respect for them. Lord of the divine capital. The first demon emperor said, "It's your turn. I've been waiting for a long time." Yu Luwu replied, and then he took a step forward and flashed towards the battlefield. The demonic realm's third emperor had set off. Golden light filled the air as a powerful emperor's aura descended. In front of the human army, the kings looked at the white-haired young man in plain clothes with serious expressions. How would the realm lord deal with him? Apart from the purple myrtle realm lord himself, the human race didn't have a third emperor. The Black Phoenix swore. Wind and thunder appeared between heaven and earth. Heaven and earth bore witness, and no one dared to go against it. In front of him, the phoenix quietly waited for the Black Phoenix to finish his oath. Then she stepped forward. The blood-colored divine sword hummed softly, and the sword light became even more dazzling. The divine sword slashed down, and with a loud bang, the iron chain shook violently. Extreme flames swept out wildly, devouring the person who had broken the seal. The phoenix body's expression was slightly cold. Her body turned illusory, and the extreme flame passed through her body. She was not injured at all. Using the phoenix secret art to manipulate time and space, the phoenix body appeared in the blink of an eye, and the divine sword slashed down on the iron chain again. Bang! With a series of heavy blows, one of the chains snapped, and the heavily sealed Black Phoenix's aura grew stronger. The moment to break the seal was right in front of him. The Black Phoenix's tired eyes were filled with excitement. It had been more than 100,000 years, and he could not escape from the purgatory that he had gone through countless nirvanas. Finally, he could escape. Bang! Above the crisscrossing iron chains, the divine sword slashed down, and the second iron chain was broken. The seal on the Black Phoenix's body was also reduced. As the iron chains were broken one by one, black flames gradually burned around the Black Phoenix. A terrifying imperial aura spread out, cold and heavy, making people shudder. 140,000 years. Eastern Deity Master, you have trapped me for a total of 140,000 years. Half of the iron chains were broken. The Black Phoenix's eyes flashed with madness. The aura around him surged, and the black aura surged. The remaining iron chains snapped, and black flames swept across the sky. It was earth-shattering. In an instant, thunder rumbled in the sky above the immortal graveyard. Bolts of lightning fell from the sky, striking the Black Phoenix below. Scram! The Black Phoenix raised his head and roared. Violent black flames soared into the sky, directly dispersing the thunderclouds in the sky. The shocking power frightened the gods and Buddhas. In the void, the phoenix body quietly looked at the Black Phoenix who was about to break the seal. Her expression was as calm as water. Below, the Black Phoenix looked over and looked at the red-robed figure in the void. He took a step and disappeared instantly. In the void, the two of them looked at each other. The Black Phoenix attacked and grabbed the knowing destiny state in front of him. When the attack arrived, the phoenix body did not retreat. Instead, she moved forward and slashed with her sword to block the attack. Rumble! In the void, there was a violent vibration. Black and red flames shook around the two of them. The Black Phoenix didn't dare to be careless. He activated the phoenix origin in his body, and the black currents spread out, turning the entire battle into hell. In the next moment, a huge blade chi slashed down from the sky. The green light was dazzling, and the gods were shocked. In front of the armies, Ning Chen and the first demon emperor's expressions froze, and their eyes dimmed. Boom! In the battle, an earth-shattering tremor sounded. Two terrifying imperial auras spread out, and the aftermath spread out in all directions. In front of the two armies, Ning Chen and the first demon emperor attacked at the same time. Cold chi and demonic chi surged, blocking the aftermath of the battle. Rumbling sounds could be heard incessantly. After a few breaths, the aftershocks dissipated, and the figures of the two rulers appeared. The splashes of blood were so beautiful. In the battle, blood burst out from Yulu's chest, dyeing the starry sky red. In front of him, the Black Phoenix stood in the air. The blade wound on his right hand was glaring, and blood flowed down. Chapter 1315. At the border of the Crepe Myrtle domain and the Red Phoenix domain, the Imperial Path battled. Terrifying shockwaves spread out, shaking the starry sky of the two domains. The war between the humans and demons had arrived. The Imperial Path had personally gone to war. The outcome of each battle could determine the direction of the war. In the third battlefield, the Master of the Divine Capital and the Black Phoenix fought fiercely. The strength of the humans' new reinforcements affected the hearts of all the kings present. Ning Chen stood quietly before the human army. He waved his hand to disperse the shockwaves of the battle. His eyes were fixed on the battle between the Black Phoenix and the Master of the Divine Capital. He was extremely focused. In front of the demonic army, Demon Emperor Kunwan was also paying attention to this unexpected battle. A strange light flashed through his eyes. The Black Phoenix's strength wasn't much weaker than his when he was at his peak. He was close to the 10 Demon Kings. Although he had lost a lot, he still had the strength of a top-tier Imperial Path Supreme. If the Master of the Divine Capital couldn't adapt to the Black Phoenix's fighting style in time, he might even lose this battle. In the battle between the two realms, blood flowed from the Master of the Divine Capital's chest, dyeing his armor red. The Black Phoenix's fighting style was strange and unpredictable. Even someone as strong as the Master of the Divine Capital suffered a lot when he wasn't prepared. The Black Phoenix fire spread in the starry sky. The swamp-like flames were everywhere. It was impossible to defend against them. The Phoenix Divine Fire that was supposed to be extremely young had become extremely in flames. Their attributes were completely opposite, and their characteristics were also very different. Yulu wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. Blue chi swirled around him as he forcefully suppressed his internal injuries. He had heard many rumors about the Black Phoenix. Back then, the Black Phoenix could severely injure the Phoenix Master. One could imagine how strong he was. However, he didn't expect the Black Phoenix's fighting style to be so uncomfortable. Is the current Imperial Path so weak? You've disappointed me. The Black Phoenix looked at the Master of the Divine Capital and sneered. Yulu didn't reply. He looked at the plain-clothed young man in front of the human army. A complicated look flashed through his eyes. The 13 sons of the Heavenly Demon Clan were truly terrifying figures. Even though the Black Phoenix was powerful, the fact that he was able to find the former Phoenix's traitor and pull him to the human clan's side was truly frightening. In front of the human army, Ning Chen felt the master of the divine capital's gaze. His expression was as calm as before. With a powerful enemy before him, Yulu quickly calmed himself down. As the two bodies merged, violent qi spread out. The heavenly book disappeared from Ning Chen's left hand. Flames wrapped around the phoenix sword appeared. It was a divine weapon made of fire essence blood copper. It was unparalleled in yang. As soon as the divine sword appeared, endless waves of fire swept across the world. The human sword and phoenix sword appeared together for the first time. Yin and yang qi swirled around Ning Chen. The yin and yang formation opened, and ice and fire shot into the sky. In the sky, the Tai Chi formation appeared. At the center of the formation, the heavenly book appeared. It became the eye of the formation and strengthened the power of the yin and yang formation. In front of the human army, King Aaron and the other human kings looked at the scene before them and couldn't hide the shock in their hearts. The knowing Ming Marquis was unprecedented. The kings all sighed. One could imagine how much effort he had to put in to become the absolute leader of the human race from a mortal's talent in 100 years. In this mortal realm, only the knowing Ming Marquis could stop the celestial devil emperor. The four battles were all in a stalemate. The most crucial battle was between the strongest of the two realms. The knowing Ming Marquis opened the formation, and yin and yang qi rushed into the sky. It was an unavoidable battle. Ning Chen faced the ancient demonic emperor head-on. The human sword and phoenix sword spread out. In the yin and yang formation, the qi around Ning Chen's body surged. He was the first person to cultivate all 10 scrolls of the heavenly book. His foundation was unparalleled in the world. Even Emperor Dao Supremes were inferior to him. In front of him, Demon Emperor Kun squinted his eyes. A few months ago, this kid needed the help of the immortal realm master and the human race's venerable Changxing to survive. In just a few months, this kid had changed so much. It seemed that after the battle with the 7 luminaries, this kid had grown a lot. Thousands of feet away, the strongest of the two realms faced each other. The light of the yin and yang formation spread out and enveloped the celestial devil emperor. Is this your trump card? Demon Emperor Kun glanced at the yin and yang qi around him and said lightly, "Not bad. No wonder you have the courage to stand in front of me." "You flatter me," Ning Chen replied coldly, and then he took a light step forward before his figure flashed out with extreme speed. He was so fast that it was hard to see him with the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, the celestial devil emperor appeared in front of him. He waved his human sword and froze 1,000 miles. First, Demon Emperor Kun raised his hand and blocked the first wave of attacks. After the human sword was blocked, the phoenix sword followed. It burned the city walls and swallowed the celestial devil emperor.